Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Stephen and I'm a traditionally published fantasy author. Today I'm going to be talking to you about something called the Slog. At least that's what I call it. It's particularly relevant because this month, coming up in November, is NaNoWriMo, which is National Month of Writing a Novel, where people attempt to set a challenge for themselves every day to write a certain number of words and get as many done as they can within the month. It can be a good thing, but I also think it can be a bad thing, and I'm going to explain why. Particularly because writing a novel is very much like a marathon, and trying to cram everything into a month is a little bit unrealistic. As an exercise for itself, for focus, to get people to actually push through that kind of barrier where they get caught in the trap, something I've mentioned before in a previous video, of getting to that 20 to 30,000 K limit, and then they just end up going in a loop, constantly revising and never moving forward. So as an exercise and a group thing to get people to work together, to egg each other on and to focus, I think it can be a good thing. But realistically going forward, you can't sustain that pace, and that's something I spoke about very personally in a recent update video about maintaining a pace and how if you keep going you can suffer from burnout. So this is something I wanted to touch on, the fact that writing a novel is more like a marathon than a sprint because it takes a number of months to complete, anywhere from 6 to 12 for me, but it really varies on what I'm doing and how I fit in work around the novel. As I mentioned in another video as well, I think you should write as often as you can, but you shouldn't write every day because there are a number of disadvantages to that, and there'll be a link again to the previous video where I've talked about this in more detail. Another aspect of the slog I wanted to talk about is the time taken to write a book, months or even years, which is a lot of hours, a lot of evenings and weekends, and a lot of focus, just spending you solely focused on the page and writing. And it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot out of a person. If writing a novel was easy, everybody would do it. How many times have you met a person who says, when you introduce the fact that you're a writer, they say, oh, one day I'm going to write a novel. But many of them don't. And even if they did, what's to guarantee it would actually go anywhere? Many people would start a novel, but how many actually get to the end and finish it? And that's the key thing, is working through your book and getting to the end of that first draft. It's absolutely critical. Another aspect of writing a novel I've not really seen people talk about is the fact that what you're doing is incredibly personal. You're taking an idea in your head, something that's very intimate, something that you've spent a lot of time thinking on, and you're showing it to other people. And that can be really difficult because inevitably there are some people who aren't going to like it. You can't please everybody all of the time in life, and it's just the same with a novel. You'll get some people who will read it and will like it, and some just won't, and that can't be helped. But if you're as clear and as focused to the original idea as you had when you first conceived of it in your mind as what ends up on the page, then no one can question the clarity of your vision, of what you were trying to do. And you won't always get it. This is the other thing too. Some authors can be accused of phoning a book in because they haven't put the effort in. That may be the case, but I think sometimes it's a case of what they're trying to do didn't end up on the page. They were trying to strive for something, but they didn't quite get there. And sometimes you see authors have repeating themes because they're revisiting an idea or a notion, and they're just trying to get there a second, a third, or a fourth time. And building a career as a writer does take time, whether it's from the first book, the 7th book, the 10th book. There's really no way to know, but with each book that you write, hopefully you'll build a following, hopefully you'll get more people enjoying your work, and you'll start to grow. Another question I'm sometimes asked by fellow writers is, does it get any easier? I'm now working on my 9th novel, at least that's going to be for publication. I have a number before that have never seen the light of day, lots of trunk novels. And people have said, does it get any easier? And the hard answer is no. As I've mentioned, some writers, when they've been writing for decades, it can feel like they're phoning it in. And maybe they are. Maybe after having written for so many years, they just feel a bit tired and they don't have the same passion for it. I'm guessing, I don't know because I'm not in their shoes. But for me, every book has its own challenges, whether it's building realistic characters to try and make them interesting and feel like real people, or world building in particular for me as a fantasy author, so that instead of having a couple of pages of information about something, I'm putting too much in and it slows down the pace and readers will get bored. And you'll know this yourself because there are so many other distractions today more than ever before, whether it's TV and film on demand, whether it's games, which are now an amazing media in their own way. The storytelling on those are fantastic. So it's finding that balance between writing a book that's pacey and interesting, but also providing enough information that it's not too slow and doesn't get readers feeling bored. Some readers like a lot of description in their novels, but the majority just want a really good story, and you have to find that balance, which is difficult. Getting to the end of that first book is tough. It's a real challenge. It requires real fortitude, whether you start with NaNoWriMo or somewhere else, but working through, getting to the end of that first draft, that's the key thing. The next step is doing the next novel and the one after that and the one after that, and building up a career, building up a portfolio of work that you will have going forward to hopefully build your own fan base and create a following for your work. And that's another part of the slog, really, that it doesn't happen overnight. Occasionally, yes, you do get some authors that on their first novel hit the stratosphere and thereafter they're instantly a household name. But for the majority of people, sometimes they discover an author and say, oh, I've just found this great book. And then you realise it's been out for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And there's a whole back catalogue of work that they've done since then that they've been working on. And suddenly they become popular years after the fact. It happens all the time with authors in particular. The good thing to remember is that you're not alone. There are a lot of other writers out there going through exactly the same thing as you, struggling with their first draft, struggling with their first novel, their fifth novel, whatever it might be. Published, independently published, self-published, not even published yet. Whatever it might be, we're all working on novels in the same way. We're all struggling to get to the end of that day and finish the work that we're set ourselves, get to the end of that first draft and turn it into something better as we work through the edits. So if you can connect with other writers, I suggest you do so, whether it's through a group, whether it's through social media, but find your clan, support each other, talk to people, and just know that you're not alone with working on this. So that's all I'm going to talk about for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel so I know that people are actually watching them. A lot of people aren't subscribing yet who are viewing them, so that would be great. And I'll have more videos out very soon.